Good evening, everyone. Dear viewer, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Stand Up for Truth and Justice channel. Tonight, I'm going to share some information with you what I am currently reading. So I think if I share with you, might be will get benefit. I hope. And if you like it, please like and share the information to others and subscribe the channel. So I'm just going to start in the name of Allah, most beneficial and most merciful. So first, like that, as you can see, I did some information last night, and I'm going to maybe continue. So tonight I'm going to start from here, like the Meccan period of the Quran has this glorious attribute that it imprints there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah on hearts and minds, and teaches Muslims to adopt this method, no other, in spite of the fact that it appears difficult and to persist in this method. The Quran concentrated all its teaching on the questions of faith alone, not mentioning the details of the system which is to be based on it or the laws which are to regulate its affairs. The people who invite others to this religion ought to ponder over this. Indeed, it is the nature of this religion which requires this particular method, as this religion stands entirely on belief in the oneness of Allah, and all its institutions and laws are derived from this great principle. A simile for this religion is a strong, tall tree whose shade spreads far and wide and whose branches reach towards the sky. Such a tree would naturally put its roots deep down into the earth and spread them over a wide area in proportion to its size. The case of this religion is similar. Its system extends into all aspects of life. It discusses all minor or major affairs of mankind. In order in orders man's life not only in this world but also in the world to come. It gives information about the unseen as well as about the visible world. It not only deals with material things but also purifies intention and ideas. It is thus like a tall, strong, wide-spreading tree. Clearly, its roots must go down deep and be in proportion to its size. And this aspect of the nature of Islam defines the way it is to be founded and organized by implanting belief and strengthening it so that it seeps into the depths of human soul. This is essential for its correct development, for only through this method can a relationship be secured between that part of the tree of religion which reaches upward and the root which are in the depths of the earth. When belief in La ilaha illallah penetrates into the deep rec- recesses of the heart, it also penetrates through the whole system of life, which is a practical interpretation of this faith. By this means, those who believe are already pleased with the system with this faith uniquely determines and submit in principle to all the laws and injunction and details even before they are declared. Indeed, the spirit of submission is the first requirement of the faith. Through this spirit of submission, the believers learn the Islamic regulations and laws with eagerness and pleasure. As soon as a command is given, the heads are bowed, and nothing more is required for its implementation except to hear it. In this manner, drinking was forbidden, interest was prohibited, gambling was proscribed, and all the habits of the days of ignorance were abolished by a few verses of the Quran or by a few words from the lips of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Compare this with the efforts of secular government at every stage. They have to rely on legislation, administrative institution, police and military power, propaganda and the press, and yet they can at most control what is done publicly, and society remain full of illegal and forbidden things. Another aspect of this religion ought to be considered. This is a practical religion. It has come to order the practical affairs of life. Thus, it faces the question of practical condition and it determines whether to keep them, modify them, or change them completely. Its legislation is therefore concerned only with those conditions which actually exist in the particular society which has already accepted the sovereignty of Allah Almighty. Islam is not a theory based on assumption, rather, it is a way of life working with reality. Thus, it is first necessary that a Muslim community come into existence which believe that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, which commits itself to obey none but Allah, denying all other authority, and which challenges the legality of any law which is not based on this belief. Only when such a society comes into being, faces various practical problems, and needs a system of law, then Islam initiates the constitution of law and injunctions, rules, and regulations. It addresses only those people who, in principle, have already submitted themselves to its authority and have repudiated all other rules and regulations. It is necessary that the believers in this faith be autonomous and have power in their own society so that they may be able to implement this system and give currency to all its laws. Moreover, power is also needed to legislate laws according to the needs of the group as these present themselves in its day-to-day affairs. In Mecca, the Muslims were not autonomous, nor did they have any influence in the society. Their practical life had not taken a permanent form so that they could have organized themselves according to the divine law. Hence, no regulations and laws were revealed to them by Allah Almighty. They were taught only belief and those moral principles which follow from this belief after it penetrate the mind. Later, when an autonomous state came into existence in Medina, general laws were revealed, and that system came into existence which satisfies the need of a Muslim community, and the power of the state was behind its enforcement. Allah Most High did not desire that all laws and regulations be revealed during the Meccan period so that Muslims would have a ready-made system to be applied as soon as they reached Medina. This is out of character for this religion. Islam is more practical than this and has more foresight. It does not find solution for hypothetical problems. It first looks at the prevailing conditions, and if it finds a viable society which, according to its form, condition, or temperament, is a Muslim society which has submitted itself to the law of Allah and is wary of laws eman- emanating from other sources, then indeed this religion provides a method for the legislation of laws according to the needs of such a society. People who demand from Islam that it provide theories and that it provide a completed constitution for its system and that it provides law, while they observe that there is not a single society on earth which has rejected man-made system and agreed to enforce the Sharia in addition to having political power for such enforcement, so that they are ignorant of the character of this religion and the way it operates in life. They are also ignorant of the purpose for which Allah revealed His religion. What these people want is that Islam change its character, its method, its history, and be reduced to the level of ordinary human theories and laws. They want a shortcut solution to satisfy their immediate desires, which are simply a product of defeatist mentality. in their spirit in the face of valueless man-made laws. They want Islam to become a mere collection of abstraction and theories, the subject of whose is application is non-existent condition, but the course prescribed by Allah Almighty for this religion is the same as it was earlier. First, belief ought to be imprinted on hearts and rule over consciences. That belief which demands that people should not bow before anyone except Allah Almighty or derive laws from any other sources. Then, when such a group of people is ready and also gains practical control of society, various laws will be legislated according to the practical needs of the society. This is what Allah Almighty has intended for this religion. It cannot be other than what Allah Almighty intends, no matter what people desire. The caller to Islam should understand that when they invite people towards the revival of religion, they should invite them to accept Islam's fundamental beliefs, even though these people call themselves Muslim or their birth certificate register them as Muslim. The people ought to know that Islam means to accept the creed La ilaha illallah in its deepest sense, which is this that every aspect of life should be under the sovereignty of Allah, and those who rebel against Allah's sovereignty and usurp it for themselves should be opposed. That this belief should be accepted by their hearts and minds and should be applied in their ways of living and in their practice. When the revival of this religion starts among the people, this aspect of it must have first priority. The first Islamic call was based on it 13 complete years of the Meccan period of the Quran were devoted to this message. When a group of people enter this religion in the true sense, only then can it be considered a Muslim group. Only such a group has the capability of giving a concrete form to the Islamic system in its social life because such a group has agreed to base its entire life on Islam and to obey Allah Almighty in all aspects of life. Thus, when such a society actually comes into being and the basic teachings of Islam are its guide, it will proceed to formulate laws and regulations for the existing practical needs according to the general teaching of Islam. This is the correct order for bringing about a practical, realistic, and wise Islamic system. Some sincere people who do not understand the real character of our religion are in a hurry. They have not understood that this is the way prescribed by the all knowing and all wise Allah. They say that if people are taught Islam's fundamentals and Islamic laws, then the way or for inviting them to Islam will be become easy and people will automatically become sympathetic to Islam. This is their wishful thinking due to their impatience. This is akin to the idea which could have been presented to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, which we had described the earlier pages. That is, that if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had started his call with nationalism or economic revolution or reformist movement, his way would have become easier. It is essential that hearts be exclusively devoted to Allah alone, accepting His law with full submission and rejecting all other laws from the very beginning, even before the details are shown to attract them. The love of divine law should be consequence of pure submission to Allah and of freedom from servitude to anyone else, and do not because it is superior to other systems in such and such details. No doubt, the divine law, in the best since it comes from Allah Almighty, the laws of His creators can hardly be compared to the law given by the Creator. But this point is not the basis of the Islamic call. The basis of the message is that one should accept the divine law without any questions and reject all other laws in any shape or forms. This is Islam. There is no other meaning of Islam. One who is attracted to this basic Islam has already resolved this problem. He will not require any persuasion through showing his beauty and superiority. This is one of the realities of the faith. Next, we ought to discuss how the Quran solved the problem of belief and faith during the 13 years of Meccan life. The Quran did not present this in the form of a theory or theology, nor did it present it in the style which is common to our scholastic writings on the subject of the oneness of Allah. None of this, the Quran always appeals to human nature and draws our attention to the signs of Allah Almighty, which are within man's soul itself and are all around him. It liberates human nature from superstition, polishes man's native intelligence to the utmost degree, and opens up window to the world and makes men appreciate the intricate process of Allah's nature. This is a general aspect. A particular aspect is the Quran. A particular aspect is that the Quran, on the basis of this belief, started a struggle in actual life against false ideas and tradition under which human nature had become helpless. To confront the special circumstances, it would not have been desirable to present Islam in the form of a theory. It took the form of a direct confrontation with determination to, to rend the cur- curtains which had fallen on the hearts and minds of people, and to break into pieces all those walls which were standing between man and the truth. Similarly, intellectual argumentation based on verbal logic, which was the hallmark of the scholastic theology of later times, was not a proper style for it. The Quran was struggling against the entire human environment as it existed. It was addressing itself to the whole of humanity, which was drowned under the vast ocean of corruption. The style of theology would have been useless for it, because although Islamic belief is a belief, its main program is in the practical sphere of life. It does not remain circumscribed in theoretical discussion and the speculation of theology. The Quran, on the one hand, construct faith in the hearts of the Muslim community, and on the other, attack the surrounding ignorance. Through this community, while struggling to remove all the ignorance influences which are found in the ideas, practices, and morals of the Muslim community. The construction of Islamic belief occurred under this stormy condition, and not in the form of a theology or theory or scholastic argument. It was rather as an active, organic, and vital movement, the concrete representation of which was the Muslim community. The growth of the Muslim community, including its ideas, morals, education, and training, was due to its belief. The evolution of this movement was wholly the practical manifestation of the evolution of his beliefs. And this is the true method of Islam, which reflects its nature and its spirit. The bearer of the Islamic message should keep in mind this dynamic method of Islam, which we have described above. They ought to know that the stage of the construction of belief, which spread over the long period of Meccan life in this fashion, was not separate from the stage of practical organization under which an Islamic community came into existence. It was not a stage of teaching and learning the theory. It was a single stage in which, at the same time, the seed of faith was implanted and a community was organized, giving a practical structure to the Islamic teaching. Hence, in the future, whenever there are attempts at the revival of Islam, this comprehensive method should be adopted. Thus, the stage of constructing the faith should be long and it should be gradual. Every step should be taken with firmness. This stage should not be spent in teaching the theory of beliefs, but in translating the beliefs into a living reality. First, it should be implanted in the hearts of men. It should materialized in a dynamic social system whose internal and external growth reflects the evolution of the belief. It ought to be a dynamic movement which challenges ignorance both in theory and practice, so that it becomes a living faith which grows while struggling against the surrounding forces. It is an error, and what an error, to think that Islam can evolve in the form of an abstract theory limited to intellectual learning and cultural knowledge. Beware of this danger, beware. The Quran did not come down at once, but took 13 years to construct and strengthen the structure of faith. Had Allah Almighty wanted, He would have revealed the entire Quran at once and then left the companion to learn it for a period of approximately 13 years, so that the believers would master the Islamic theory. But Allah Most High did not choose this method. He wanted something else. He wanted to lay the foundation of a community, a movement, and a belief simultaneously. He wanted the community and the movement to be founded on belief, while with the dynamic progress of the community, the faith also grew. He wanted faith to grow with the progress of the community, while the practical life of the community was at the same time a mirror of the faith. Allah Most High know that men and societies are not founded overnight, but that it takes as much time to construct and develop a faith as it takes to organize a community, so that as the faith is completed, simultaneously a strong community also comes into existence, which is the true representations and practical interpretation of the faith. This is the character of our religion, and the Meccan period of the Quran testifies to it. We should be aware of this character and should not try to change it by being impatient or falling under the influence of a defeatist, defeatist mentality in the presence of valueless man-made theories. Through this particular quality of Islam, the first Muslim community came into existence. And in the future, whenever a Muslim community is to be created in the world, it can be created only by this method and relation to this character. We should be aware that any attempt to change the living faith of Islam, which is intended to penetrate into the vein and arteries of a vital society and to be a concrete organized movement into purely theoretical teaching and academic discussion is an attempt to show the superiority of the Islamic theory over the valueless and useless theories formulated by men, and is not only erroneous but also dangerous. The requirement of Islam belief is that it takes shape in living soul, in an active organization, and in a viable community. It should take the form of a movement, struggling against the ignorance ignorant environment while also trying to remove the influence of the ignorant society in its followers, because there were people of ignorance before the faith entered their souls, and the influence of ignorant might have remained in their hearts and minds as well as in their lives. Islamic belief has a much wider range of action than simply academic discussion, as it not only addresses itself to heart and mind, but also include practice and morals. The divine attributes, the universe, life, man are all included in the Islamic concept, which is not only very comprehensive and perfect, but also realistic and constructive. Islam, because of its very nature, abhors being reduced to pure thought, this being against its nature and also against its ultimate aim, and loves to appear personified in human being, in a living organization, and in a practical movement. Its method is to grow through the agency of living persons and through a dynamic movement and an active organization in such a way that its theory comes to fruition at the same time as its practical application. It never remains an abstract theory but develops side by side with practice. As for the idea that we should first perfect Islam as a theory, bringing is about later in the world of action. This is an error and is dangerous. Being against the nature of Islam, its purpose, and its structural element. Allah Most High says, وَقُرْآنًا فَرَقْنَاهُ لِتَقْرَأَهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ عَلَى مُكْسِ وَنَزَّلْنَاهُ تَنزِيلًا. And it is a Quran which we have separated by intervals that you might recite it to the people over a long period, and we have sent it down progressively. Gradualness and teaching at intervals is desired so that a living community based on its beliefs may come into existence and not merely a theory. The message bearer of Islam should fully understand that this is a divine religion and that its method, which is harmonious with its nature, it is also based on divine guidance. It is not possible to establish this religion without following its particular method. One should also understand that this religion has come to change not only the belief and practice of people, but also the method of bringing about this change in beliefs and practice. The religion constructs beliefs together with forming a community. It also develops its systems of thought while it spends its energy in enforcing its practical aspects. Thus, the establishment of its particular system of thought, in particular beliefs, and its particular way of living does not require different method but is fulfilled simultaneously. From the above explanation, we know that this religion has a particular method of action. Now we ought to know that this method is eternal. It is not related to any particular stage or to any special condition, an environment peculiar to the first Muslim community. Indeed, this religion cannot be established at any time except through this method. Islam's function is to change people's belief and action as well as their outlook and way of thinking. Its methods is divinely ordained and is entirely different from all the valueless methods of short-sighted human beings. We cannot receive the divine guidance or live according to it unless we adopt the divinely ordained method, the method which Allah Almighty intended for reforming human thought and practice. When we try to make Islam into a theory to be studied, we remove the divine method and divine outlook from its character, and we reduce it to the level of a man-made system of thought, as if the divine method were inferior to man's method, and as if we wanted to elevate the system of thought and action ordained by Allah Almighty to the level of the system of His creatures. This point of view is extremely dangerous, and this defeatism is ruinous. The function of this divine system, which is given to us, we who are the callers to Islam, is to provide certain style of thinking, purified from all those ignorant style and ways of thinking which are current in the world and which have poisoned our culture by depriving us of our own mind. If we try to change this religion in a way which is alien, which is alien to its nature and which is borrowed from the ways of developed predominant ignorant society, we will deprive it of the function it has come to perform for humanity. We will deprive ourselves of the opportunity of getting rid of the yoke of the ignorant ways current in our time, which dominate our minds. This aspect of the situation is full of danger, and the resulting loss will be disastrous. Ways of thought and action for the founding of Islamic system are not less important or less necessary than this Islamic belief and way of life, nor are they separate from each other. Although it may seem very attractive to us to keep expounding on the beauties of Islamic beliefs and system, we should not forget this fact that Islam can never become a practical way of life or a dynamic movement through this means. We should also realize that this way of presenting Islam does not benefit anyone except those who are working for Islamic movement, and even these groups can benefit from it only to such an extent as corresponds with each stage of development. And therefore, I repeat that Islamic belief should at once materialize into a practical movement. And from the very instant this comes into being, the movement should become a real representation and an accurate mirror of its belief. It will also repeat that this is the method which is a natural to the divinely revealed religion of Islam, and that this method is the most superior and lasting and is extremely effective. It is closer to human nature that all those methods which present Islam to people in the form of a complete and fixed theory. Before these people have engaged in a practical movement, and before this has become a living reality in their hearts, going step by step in translating this theory into actuality. If this is the correct method for the fundamental of Islamic beliefs, it is even more correct with respect to the particulars of the organizational structure and its legal details. The ignorant which has surrounded us and which weighs heavily on the mind of some sincere workers for Islam who became impatient and want to see all the stages of the Islamic system come into existence very rapidly, has raised a very delicate questions indeed. It asks them, what are the details of the system to which you are calling? How much research have you done? How many articles have you prepared? How many subjects have you written about? Have you constituted its jurisprudence on new principles? As if nothing were lacking for the enforcement of the Islamic law except research in jurisprudence and its details, as if everyone had agreed upon the sovereignty of Allah and were willing to submit to his laws, as if the only factor remaining were the non-existence of mujahideen, mustahideen, non-existence of mustahideen who would supply a modernized version of Islamic jurisprudence. This is a vulgar joke on Islam, and every person who has any respect for this religion should raise himself above it. By these tactics, ignorant ones to find an excuse to reject the divine system and to perpetuate the slavery of one man over another. It desires to run away the power of Muslims from the work of establishing the divinely ordained way of life in order that they may not go beyond the stage of belief to the stage of a dynamic movement. It wants to distort the very nature of this method, the method in which Islamic belief matures through the struggles of its movement, in which the details of the Islamic system develop through practical striving, and in which laws are disseminated to solve practical problems and actual difficulties. It is the duty of Muslims to expose these tactics and reduce them to dust, to reject this ridiculous proposal of reconstruction of Islamic law for a society which is neither willing to submit to the law of Allah Almighty nor expresses any weariness with laws emanating from sources other than Allah Almighty. Such talk is a way of diverting attention from the real and earnest work, and is a method through which the worker for Islam can made to waste their time in building castle in their yard. Thus, it is their duty to expose these treacherous tactics. It is their duty to adopt the method of the Islamic movement which is harmonious with this religion. This method is the source of power for this religion as well as a source of power for them. Islam and the method of revival of Islam are both equally important. There is no difference between them. Any other method, however attractive it may be, cannot bring about the establishment of Islam. Other methods can work for the establishment of man-made system, but are incapable of establishing our system. Thus, it is as necessary to follow this particular method for the establishment of Islam as it is to obey the way of life it outlines and to believe in its article of faith. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. Indeed, this Quran guides to that which is most suitable and gives glad tidings to the believers who do righteous deeds, that they will have a great reward. May Allah give us ability to understand and get guidance in our daily life to make our community and our worldly life successful, and also which will lead to successful our day after the death. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah shower His peace, mercy, and blessing you all. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe the channel to spread the message of truth and justice. Have a good night. Have a safe and nice sleeping.